Hi, hello. I see known faces in the room, even alumni. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining this second panel of our Europe Day 2025. We have the pleasure today to have three panelists with very different expertise, very different personal and professional backgrounds. You all know Professor Albert Carreras, full professor on economic history at Pompeu Fabra University and our director here at ESCI-UPF. Then it's my pleasure to introduce you Luis de Barutell. He's education advisor of the SEPIE, which is an acronym that stands for Servicio Español para la Promoción de la Internacionalización de la Educación, if I'm not wrong. Minister of Science, Education, Innovation, Science and Universities. Thank you for correcting me. Spanish government. So he actually took the time to come from Madrid this morning and to stay with us. So again, thank you very much for being with us. And finally, I introduce you, Judith Pla. She's an alumni from this school. She graduated a few years ago. I had the pleasure to supervise her final dissertation on the Brexit, something that you're already familiar with. And all together, we will discuss about the Erasmus program, European identity, and how this Erasmus program and this probably, without no doubt, the most important, one of the most outstanding policy issues, policy outcomes of this integration process has served as a vector, as a leverage for creating European citizens. And we will try to understand these ideas from the very different angles they will share with us. If you don't mind, I take a seat. And here we go. Luis, first of all, I was surprised when I saw your email address. It's erasmusplus.gov.es. But back in time, did you enjoy the Erasmus program as a student?
Actually, unfortunately, I didn't. And you know what? Many years ago, when I was at college, Erasmus was in its initial years. So it was like an opportunity for just for a few students, and I was not there. Fortunately enough, then in my career as a teacher in the vocational level, I had the opportunity to join Erasmus, and I feel like part of the Erasmus program. But as a student, let me tell the students here, congrats, because I think it's a great opportunity. So I know you are joining Erasmus maybe in September, so congrats, because I had not the opportunity. You have the opportunity ahead, so take advantage of that.
Thank you. If I can share my personal background as well, I also could not take the opportunity of moving as an Erasmus student, but I traveled afterwards. But Luis, we want to ask you to come to Barcelona just to ask you for your personal experience, but also for about your background and your expertise in this Erasmus program. So very quickly, very briefly, before giving the floor to our panelists, could you please share with us the general framework of what the Erasmus program is, why we call it now Erasmus Plus program, right. And if you have a couple of figures in mind,
sure.
That could be great, just for the context.
So Erasmus started back in 1987, I believe, and was like a scheme for the student mobility around Europe. From then to today, the program has grown in its scope and also in its budget. The ambition of the European Commission through Erasmus has increased a lot over time. Meaning that today, still the mobilities is part of the core of Erasmus, and an important piece of the program itself. Indeed, 7% more or less of the budget of the program is located for mobilities. But concerning mobilities, it's not just for students, but also for teachers and also for staff, and not just for higher education as the public in the audience, but also for VET, for schools, for adult education, and so on and so forth. So basically, mobilities is still there, but it's open for pretty much every citizen around Europe. But in addition to mobilities, the program increases its capacity to organize, to promote cooperation projects, which is right now the other piece of the program that we promote, because we believe, when I say we, I say the European Commission, the government of Spain, SEPIE. We believe that cooperation is basically needed around Europe to try to enhance the educational system of Europe and also the economic opportunities for everyone and so forth. Right now we have Erasmus Plus because we have the mobilities, but then we have, for instance, Erasmus Mundus, which is a great opportunity to join in, high-level master around different institutions, higher education institutions. We do have as well opportunities, we call it capacity building projects, that basically what we try is to do this kind of transfer of knowledge between European institutions and institutions for third countries of the world. And we have many other opportunities. Basically, Erasmus Plus is plus because it's truly global. It's not anymore about Europe, but Europe in the context of the world, and is plus because it's not just for students. It's pretty much for students, institutions from here, but institutions around the European region and the world itself.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
For this very general context that hopefully helps us to know where we are and what we are talking about. Albert, I'd like to address to you and also asking, first of all, asking you what's your Erasmus experience? And don't take it personally, please do not. If Luis, the Erasmus program for Luis was very, very recent, in your case, probably you as a college student, you had no opportunity. Above all, in Spain at that time, mobility was a very complicated thing. But I know, because I have the pleasure to be part of this institutional stuff, that you have enjoyed the Erasmus program in many other ways. Could you please share it with us?
Of course. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. Yes, I was now trying to make memory. I studied from my degree from 1974 to 1978, so a long time ago. And there was no Erasmus program at that moment. Spain was far away from the European communities. That is how they were named, European communities. In fact, they were named the common market. That was the normal way to name what we now name as the European Union. And so nothing happened. When we were talking about these issues with the members of the roundtable, I mentioned that my special, let's say, Europeanization experience was Interrail. Interrail that was just created in 1971, I think. I was of the second generation of Interrail, 1972, and I crisscrossed Europe, 15,000 kilometers in 1 month, because at that stage Interrail was open to all Western Europe and Eastern Europe, not the Soviet Union, but Eastern Europe. So I went to East Berlin, I went to Prague, I went to Istanbul, I went to Trondheim. It was crossing all of this. And there I got the impression that I was discovering Europe as something real and very different. So different between Amsterdam and Istanbul, nothing to do. Or between Florence and East Berlin, nothing to do. So this was my experience on this. After, as a teacher, I have been being part of this increase in the opportunities to have Erasmus exchange programs and have an increasing number of students that went to Erasmus exchange. And for the years that I was at the European University Institute in Florence, when there were talks about how to develop the European University Institute, that was another common European creation, but it was for postgraduate students doing their PhD. I was proposing, but with no success at all, only some kind of disdain, that taking into account the nice group of people that was there, we should be also a place where Erasmus students could apply. But this was considered as kind of downgrading for my high-nosed colleagues that were very important, full professors all over the place, and they considered, oh, Erasmus, this is not for us. But I'm convinced that this would have been a very good idea, having kind of a central place to go that could be highly disputed. But now all the places are very interesting, all the places are very appealing, there is competence to go to all of this. So we are much better than we could have ever dreamed.
And you recently visited Venice, something that we will take again in a couple of minutes. But before that, let me ask Judith, because she was very close to Florence. What about your Erasmus experience, Judith? Where were you? And
yes, well, do you hear me? Yes, no?
yeah, sure.
So, well, thank you for inviting me to participate. But
thank you for accepting to be here.
So my Erasmus Plus started in, well, it took me to Bologna, which is the city that I think embodies Europe's legacy. I mean, it's the oldest university in the Western world. It's really like a melting pot of a lot of students on all continent. So when I arrived, I didn't fully grasp what the Erasmus experience would mean. Like many students, I was excited, but also nervous, like new city, new languages, new academic system. But what I found in Bologna was more than just a host university. I found a place to grow both personally and intellectually. I learned how to manage independence. I learned how to live in another language, how to collaborate with people who approached problems and ideas differently than I was used to. So it was a really fundamental point for me just to grow personally. And I'd like to think that we often say that Erasmus promotes mobility, but I think it promotes mobility of the mind. Like it's opening young people to different ways of thinking, to a sense shared of citizenship. So I think it's a great experience that everyone would be very grateful to have. And I think that's what I say, no? It's not just about the academic credits, the CV points. It's about the deep cultural empathy it creates. And I think it's the most valuable thing that I took from that journey.
Thank you. I like it very much, and I borrow from you, this idea of mobility of the mind. Luis,
You can.
I'm sure that this costs a lot of money.
Yep.
And because each student, you will all receive your Erasmus grant. Could you explain us a little bit more about this
Sure.
this policy outcome, where the money comes from, how you from SEPIE distribute the money, how these practical things work?
So the Erasmus Plus is organized through they call it programs, meaning right now we are like in the program 21-27. So the European Commission allocate an important amount of money for the whole period. The money, if you want to know, is something like 26,000 million euros for the whole period. And the European Commission, every single year, distribute part of the budget, the total budget, in a yearly call. So every single year there is a Erasmus Plus call, and the institutions apply to participate in Erasmus every single year. They have the ability to do it every single year. So right now we are like almost finishing this period, 21-27. We are in the Spanish government doing this kind of evaluating the policy, trying to improve the program ahead, and talking about money as well. Spain is committed as well as every single country around the European Union, is a scheme of co-financing the program. Obviously, the big amount is by the European Commission, but Spain, for instance, talking about higher education, the mobilities of higher education, every single year Spain allocates something like 35 million of euros, which is an important amount for the budget of Spain. So basically, the model is generosity by the European Commission, although we believe, when I say we, the nation alliances, that we need more money for the program. Because as I told you before, the program, well, increases the opportunities to everyone, also over time increases like the opportunities as well for participants with fewer opportunities, and that requires money for being able to provide those opportunities, to make it real what the program wants to be. So right now we are, as I told you, evaluating the current period, and we wish the program will be even better and with more budget by the European Commission. Who knows? Because you know the European Commission is struggling with so many issues. Right now we have this conversation about the securitization of Europe and so on and so forth. So who knows what's going on with Erasmus? But from the standpoint of the Ministry of Spain, and we are well, looking forward for even a better program.
So in a way, these contributions and these Erasmus Plus mobility funds and are contributing to the cohesion of the European Union, to cohesion policy in the Union,
yes.
Right? Providing new chances, new opportunities
Right.
To those that unfortunately do not have, do not enjoy it.
Yes, that's the secret of the Erasmus Plus program, that should be understood as a small piece in a bigger conversation. So Erasmus Plus is about education, but not just about education. Because if you provide a better education for the population of Europe, you are indeed reinforcing this idea of people with better skills, people better re-skilled, people more, this conversation about competitiveness, that the European Commission is very deeply concerned about the competitiveness of Europe. So Erasmus is a piece in that conversation. Obviously, Erasmus by itself can solve all the challenges of the European Union. And you know perfectly that we are in the middle of many storms. But Erasmus is a necessary actor to try to solve these challenges we are living right now. For instance, a challenge that we, Spain, and all the southern country we are facing is the unemployment rate of especially of the young population. That is a huge policy issue that Erasmus is as well a piece trying to solve that situation. And Erasmus is a piece not just because the mobilities, but as I told you, because the cooperation projects that try to promote, this kind of sharing good ideas, identifying best practices, and so on and so forth. So yes, to your question, Erasmus is an important piece in the whole packet of the cohesion and social policies of the European Union.
Well, I was asking because we talked about the European cohesion policy a few days ago, so
Good.
I just wanted to connect the dots. Before asking Judith if she learned to cook bolognese or not, I'd like to ask Albert to explain us a little bit more about this new project that our school is involved in, this Ecotopia, Utopia, this European University Alliance we're part of. Very shortly, but I think that our students will, it's good, will be interested in these new possibilities, pragmatically, but also on a broader scope.
Thank you. Just let me tell very briefly that European alliances were called for, I would say, 2018. I think it was 2018. It was President Macron that made a big push in order to have a major European project that will increase excellence, mobility, equal opportunities, but with an ambition. And very quickly, the European Commission made a call, and there were a number of alliances that were created. And Pompeu Fabra University was, luckily enough, among the first round of those that were involved in the creation of one of these university alliances. The alliances had to be among universities of different countries, so not two universities of the same country plus others, no, universities from different countries. And they think that we started being, let's say, the Spanish university, SEPIE, ESCI were the French university, and after we had Ljubljana University, that was the Slovenian, and Warwick University, that was the British. It was before the Brexit. And well, perhaps I have to stop here. Gothenburg was also at the very start. So Gothenburg, Sweden, was also at the very start. And because the project created a lot of expectations from all the universities that could not be part of these initial alliances, there was a second round where the expansion of the existing alliances and the creation, I think, of still some new alliances was called for. And the alliance where Pompeu Fabra University was, that was named Utopia. Each alliance has a name. This was named Utopia, received Vrije University in Brussels. No, they were at the very first stage, Vrije University in Brussels, Dresden University, Ca' Foscari University in Venice, Babeș-Bolyai University at Cluj-Napoca, and Nova University in Lisbon. So this was, well, a nice map of 10 universities of 10 different countries. And this has been working in quite a stable way since then, but with a number of challenges, because this implied to work together as much as possible with the idea of having joint projects, joint teaching projects, joint courses, joint programs, joint research projects, joint transfer projects. And this has been confronted with many obstacles because the inertia, it's always extremely powerful, because jumping across countries and states in order to have a more close collaboration, it's always difficult. But we were invited by Pompeu Fabra University to participate actively on this, and we started working with the French university in the network, SEPIE, that had an idea of creating a program, and this program was agreed initially by Ljubljana, ESCI, SEPIE, and we. And after we had Ca' Foscari, Babeș-Bolyai, who also entered, and Brussels, and we created a thing that was named Ecotopia. So that was a collaboration among a number of partners of Utopia. Why Ecotopia? Because the promoters of this came from a degree in economics, and they thought that Ecotopia had many drinks: economics, ecology. Well, so it could be proper, and being Utopia about utopia, Ecotopia had this drink of dreaming of something better. So we were all happy with the name of Ecotopia for this sub-alliance within Utopia. And what we are doing, perhaps you know because we were advertising this to you, is that this is a program that lasts for 3 years with online courses during these 3 years, but with 1 year of an extended Erasmus exchange during the second year of the degree. It's an extended 1 full academic year. And in order to have the students that only know each other because of online meetings, we have at the end of the first academic year, we have a short 1-week summer school. And in order to have them also gathering together at the end, we have another summer school at ESSEC Rabat, by the end of the third year, but many students go there at the end of the second year. So this creates kind of a combination of normally CTS, that is the second year course, plus some activities that do not have ECTS, but are entitled to have a certificate of having passed this Ecotopia program, describing very well what we do there, that it's an extra, it's a plus in order to display you as much more open and willing to have international exposure, international experience, and working together in both face-to-face and online with students all over Europe.
Thank you, Obed. Judith, if you could go back into time, could you join this Ecotopia program?
I think I would, actually, because I think everything that fosters collaboration and internationalization, I think it's very good both for the students and after to complete the academic studies, and also for a future ahead when working. I think all of my internationalization experiences have helped me shape a little bit my professional growth. And I think it's a very good thing that SE is doing more things to promote internationalization between its students. So yeah, I think I would join.
It's great that you mentioned that, Judith, because I forgot, and I apologize to mention that Judith is now working at the Chambers of at the Consell de Cambres de Catalunya, which is the union of smaller chambers of commerce here in Barcelona. All chambers except Barcelona are under the umbrella, right? Almost
all of them.
All of them,
Like
even
the
the
13,
chamber
yeah.
of Barcelona. Okay.
We coordinate all the activities of all the chambers. But yeah, in my project, especially, it's true that Chamber of Barcelona is a part. But but it's true. Like in the project, we are a part. Like we are the umbrella of all the other chambers, and Barcelona is alone because it's for industrial, like for concentration, like entrepreneurial concentration, because it's 66% of all Catalonia. So they go alone, and then. But all the coordination of all the other activities, we do it in the council.
And do you feel somehow that your experience in Bologna, the months you spent there, in a way shaped this professional path you're just starting, by the way?
I think it did, because in Bologna, I learned that all about Erasmus was about building bridges, collaboration. Helping see different ways of how we see the world and different ways of doing things. So for example, in my work, what I do is we help SMEs internationalize, like Catalan SMEs only, because it's by region. So we only work with Catalan SMEs, and we help them find markets that they can internationalize to. So it's kind of funny, because when I help, for example, a Catalan company connect with, I don't know, of Finland or Poland or Austria, it goes back to this feeling that I had when I was in Bologna about building bridges and helping companies find like common things with enterprises that they don't think they would find matches, but actually they do, because we have a common thing, which is the European identity, because I don't think it's like a common one, like a visual one, and I think there are different realities. And that's what's beautiful. That's what's plurinational, and what we have to really work for. Because I think that now in the economic context that we have, geopolitically talking, with wars, economic uncertainty, digital transition, climate change, I think it's really important to put these things into table and really enhance this European identity, because we take it for granted, which actually it's really important that we understand that it's something that we can lose, and it's something that we don't have to lose, because it's very important, and it defines us in our everyday life more than we think, and also in our professional life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. For a political scientist, as I am, talking about this European identity, it's like talking about these Middle Ages monsters that had the body of a lion, the tail of a snake, the one leg of an elephant, and then two whales. But this is something that you, Luis, and your team and your institution, your agency, the SEPIE, and the Commission, are strongly working on the building or the facilitation of the emergence of a European identity in a way. Why, instead of simplifying things and allowing, distributing money to people just to enjoy this 6 months ago, this 9 months ago, sorry, abroad, why this idea of creating something new from an identitary point of view?
Because basically I believe money is just the mechanism. I mean, money, we need money to implement policies. But what we need previous is to try to shape good policies. Policies that make sense concerning the context and policies that are able to actually transformate the reality. That's the reason why Erasmus, as I told you, 21-27, has 4 priorities, and all of them are interrelated, strongly interrelated. Judith already pointed the crisis, the climate crisis, and is indeed one of the priorities of Erasmus, the green transition, to facilitate the green transition. Also is a priority for the program to facilitate the digital transition. But then we have 2 other priorities that are deeply related with the idea of the European values and identities. One is the inclusion and diversity priority, meaning that the program that, as I told you at the beginning, started as a program opportunities just for a few. Erasmus Plus, the European Commission, Europe itself wants a program that is open to everyone. No one left behind. That's the idea. So a third priority for the program is the inclusion and diversity with a particular specific budget, but also with this kind of encouragement to the institutions to try to promote in its academic body and students' body the participation of those that has singular situations that may be, maybe make difficult the participation in this scheme of mobilities. But then we have a specific priority, which is the promotion of the European values. From my standpoint, the promotion of the European values can't be understood without the other 3 priorities. Basically, if we in Europe are able to succeed in this kind of digital and green transitions, probably the citizenship of Europe is going to be more allied with the idea of Europe itself. And that makes sense, and we were discussing previously about this idea of the geography of discontent. I mean, all over Europe, there are regions that the population of those regions are feeling like the losers of the globalizations. So Erasmus, by pointing out these 4 clear commitments, the green, the digital, the inclusion, and the values, the European values, I think is trying to foster answers to those people from Europe that feel like, okay, there is no place to me. I have a degree, I have 20-something years, but I have no future. So that situation is the one Erasmus wants to try to shape in a different way, and we are working on that.
And what sort of policy instruments, policy tools do you use to force this 4th priority in the Erasmus program? What sort of policy tools, mechanisms that help to promote this?
Right. So, for instance, for the inclusion one, in each Erasmus Plus call, as I told you before, Erasmus organizes a call every single year, and in the Erasmus Plus yearly call is stated a specific budget to promote the participation on certain profiles of population. Let's say under economic struggles, or let's say population with some kind of different capacities, so on and so forth. So there is not just a specific budget, but also like explicit call to the institutions to please organize your mobility scheme, taking into account this budget and the interest of the European Commission for the participation of this population. And also concerning the fourth priority, as I told you, the promotion of the European values and the European identity, every single call of the program has a specific budget as well, in this case to promote cooperation projects, meaning we want different institutions from different backgrounds of Europe making some kind of, gathering to try to identify best practices in order to promote those European values. And I have something interesting as well to share with you, colleagues, and also with future Erasmus Plus alumni, which is that is a novelty. We are organizing in SEPIE this idea of Embajadores Erasmus. And it's open right now, the call for applications for being an Embajador Erasmus. You could apply, you did. You could apply and you could be the first cohort of Embajadores Erasmus to try specifically to promote this Erasmus Plus identity in your professional context and also in your every day life as European citizen. So I think it's something really cool that is going to be for the first time this year. By June something I think is going to close the call. But it's something, a clear example of things that could be done to try to disseminate this idea of the European values as something very meaningful, very important, pivotal for the future of Europe. And as we already stated 2 or 3 times, we can't take it by granted. That's the key element as well. The European values is not there forever. At least we, the European citizens, are really committed with those values. The democratic way we organize, our strong policies on social and social cohesion policies, and so on and so forth.
Of course, and the respect of minorities and the respect
Absolutely.
of different ways of thinking. Couldn't agree more. So, Judith, to stay in tune, maybe you become the first Erasmus ambassador alumni from this school.
Well,
I'm sure you could do a great job. I don't know what does imply being an ambassador, but
yeah, I don't know what does.
We don't pay.
What do you have to do? Like what is like making video? Like what is ambassador? Like Erasmus ambassador?
Well, actually, is something that if you were chosen as ambassador, we should participate in some kind of network, and I would say you should be like an official representative of the European Commission Erasmus Plus, program in your current life. That's the secret.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's nothing extraordinary, but it's extraordinary itself.
Okay.
I'd like to, why not? I'd like to dig deeper in a little bit more into this idea of European identity. As a Catalan, I'm bilingual from the cradle, and I had the chance to learn some more foreign languages that I do not consider foreign languages anymore. Do you think that the European identity, from your own personal experiences and also professional experiences, is rooted in this multilingualism, or we should add more elements to that, to this European, to this European identity? Because I'm sure that all of you are polyglots. So, did you learn some Italian?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, I think not not as not offensive, but I think I know better Italian than I know German that I studied in this school. It was 3 years, but German is quite more difficult.
Be careful because we're recording
No,
it.
but it's quite more difficult to learn German. But I think I can manage to have a conversation in Italian, and in German, I won't say so. But yeah, so I know these languages, and then I know some French. Well, some French. No, I know French, and English, Catalan, Spanish. So I'm kind of like I have a very good background of some languages in Europe, and I think it has shaped a little bit how I communicate at work, for example, because I think it gives me like a better shape to like speak with people of different countries, because when you speak, for example, with a French person in French, is way better than if you speak in English, and both like also for Italy and all of the countries. Of course, English is our common language, and you speak English in order to communicate, because you won't. I haven't no one that has spoken 27 languages, which are I think there's 27 or 28 languages in the European Union.
If I remember well, 24 official
24.
languages. Sorry, because
24, okay.
The Belgians, for instance, share official languages with the Netherlands, France, and
maybe
Germany.
I doubled one, but I think it's very important to know languages. I've always thought about this, and also when I've always liked studying languages, and I think also for my professional life it has helped me a lot. Yeah, to communicate with different people, to engage with professionals, and I think it's better to know languages fluently, because then you're not afraid to speak to someone, because you won't understand, or you will not be able to, to have a proper conversation. So yeah, I think it's something that it's embedded in the European identity. I think everyone knows at least 2 or 3 languages. So I think that's something that is really valuable, and we don't have to lose. So yeah, I think it's a thing. It's great.
Alberto, I heard you a few minutes ago talking in Italian. You speak Italian as well. What do you think about multilingualism?
It's very good, and I am enthusiastic about our school, because our school is really unique in promoting multilingualism. When I explain what we do here to many people interested, I can be very proud, and they are very impressed. The fact that here we assume that people knows Catalan, Spanish, and English, because we will start teaching in these languages. And they have to choose a language that further than these 3, they do not know, they do not command, because many of you know before this French or German, typically these are the 2 that you may know. This is wonderful, it's something that nobody else does in Spain, as far as I know. And in order to impress you, what we do is French, German, Russian, but it has been dying, and with the Ukrainian invasion, it has disappeared. Japanese, that was extremely popular, but it has also been dying because the Japanese world seems to be less appealing than before. Chinese, that has always quite a success, and Arabic. And because now we have one more group, and Russian and Japanese have been dying, we introduce next academic year Hindi, that is the 4th most spoken language in the world. In fact, in some cases it will be the 3rd. Because if you count those that speak this as their native language, they go above English, that they speak many more people, but not as native language. So indeed, it's a language for the future. Turkish, because we are unaware of the enormous amount of business relations that we have with Turkey. And after Korean, that it's a bit the replacement of Japanese, because it's kind of fashionable now and emerging and so on. So we believe in this, and I think that with this we open many, many doors to all our students, and we become much more attractive. And next academic year we start the mention in Francophonie, because there is this evidence that if you want to impress a French person that is in the business world, if you speak French, this is a difference, but you have to speak well French, because if you don't speak well French, they will change to English, and this will be the end of your reputation. So you need to speak well French. So we introduced the mention in Francophonie to try to have a group of students that had full command, perfect command of French and business. So I'm a true believer. Nevertheless, I would say that some of the best, how may I say, the best definition of who are Europeans, it was my daughter, who has been working around the San Francisco Bay Area for now a number of years, that said me, oh, Europeans, we recognize immediately among us. Speaking English, we recognize immediately among us because we are so different to Americans that it's immediate. We see how do we perform, how we speak, how do we assess things, and we say, where do you come from? And Europeans recognize themselves. So we have been building something, it's a set of values, essentially it's a set of values, of attitudes that have made us perhaps appealing for us, but perhaps we have to get a bit more of muscle. This is also true. We need now a bit more of muscle because Americans have a lot of muscle and perhaps they do not have the other things. But there is something that perhaps we can be for a whole seminar talking about what is this. I don't know if it's simply multilingualism, but the fact that typically the Europeans that or in the States speak many other languages perhaps also helps to recognize themselves as, if you're multilingual, you're a European.
Yes, that's something rooted in our way of living in a way, right? And actually, I mean, this huge offer of foreign languages courses fits well in this idea of Erasmus Plus. Erasmus becoming global,
Absolutely.
that you, Luis, mentioned, right? And I'd like to ask you to develop a little bit more this idea, because I think it fits very well in this very complicated actorness that the European Union needs to play worldwide, now that things are getting very complicated in many senses. Europe, the European Union needs to project these European values, how can the the Erasmus Plus policy, but beyond our borders, have contributed to that in a sort of extended foreign action?
Actually, because we are living those challenging times, I think makes even more sense to the European Erasmus Plus program goes beyond the European region itself. Actually, we are this year celebrating the 10th anniversary of the so-called international dimension of the Erasmus Plus program. The international dimension, well, it's interesting because it means that virtually every single country in the world is or could be a part of the Erasmus Plus program. When we say every single country, we start to recognize, identify the complexity of the world, because Russia is no longer welcome to Erasmus, or is welcome with some kind of limitations, and also some countries around the Russian sphere are at this point like ending the relationship with Erasmus, so on and so forth. So basically, Erasmus started 10 years ago. This globalization of the program, the international dimension of the program was a real success, but it's difficult. And it's difficult because the global context is complex itself. I mean, when happens the Russia invasion, everything was a mess for a few months in the region. Also, we have the Palestine situation that is impacting a lot this global international dimension of Erasmus+. Also, it's difficult because we have to acknowledge that it's difficult to generate cooperation with actors that are from different cultural, linguistic background, and it creates some kind of difficulties that, we are dealing with those difficulties. For instance, in Africa Sub-Sahariana, which is a priority for the European Commission, we are promoting cooperation between institutions from Spain and from Africa Sub-Sahariana. Can you imagine? There are so many challenges there because sometimes even the beginning of the expectation are so different for the two actors that it creates kind of, basically it requires a lot of time, determination, and commitment. But we, Erasmus Plus, are committed with this international dimension of the program, because basically it's the way Europe can attract talent, is the way we can learn from others, is the way we can also, cooperate with others in the sense of the typical development cooperation with the whole 2030 agenda. So Erasmus Plus in this context, in the international dimension, again, fulfill this kind of educational commitment, but also social cohesion commitment in a truly global way. Because actually we all know that Europe by itself is nothing. Europe is an important actor as is able to create some kind of synergies, cooperation around the world. And I think Erasmus here has some important role too.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that that's a wonderful idea to conclude this this first part. This discussion with you three. And again, I thank you a lot for sharing with us, with our students today in this Day of Europe, all these very inspiring ideas and your personal backgrounds as well. But before putting an end to the session, if you don't mind, I'd like to open the floor to our students and see if we can collect any particular question. So, if any, you please raise your hand. We will be moving the mic, distributing the mic, and you please address the name that you want to address. It always takes some time, but
sure.
Until they warm up, I wanted to ask you very quickly. I wanted to ask you very quickly, if you imagine, assuming your perspective, your background, your experiences, do you think that the European Union as we know it today, and as we will know it in the future, could be the same with or without this program, the Erasmus Plus program that we initiated in 1987 and then we reformulated in 1994? Is it? Or no, 2014?
Well, yes, actually, it's reshaping itself.
Could it be different? Could be the European Union different? Could it be different without this Erasmus program? And if you don't mind, Luis, I propose starting with Judith.
I think, as we've talked a lot about cohesion and this multilingual, a lot of different things that are shaped together, I think also Erasmus Plus is one of these mechanisms that we have in Europe for promoting all these things about, understanding different countries and different perspectives, but having as a common identity. And also I think that it's one way that the European Commission has to promote this. For example, also, I know I'm not going to go deep into this, but I think it's very important to talk about FTAs, soft power. There are other things that the European Commission does also to shape all this future. And I think it's really important what you talked about. Would it be different, for example, if the European Union hasn't promoted all these FTAs that include soft power measures, for example, about digital transition, about climate change? We're talking about now Mercosur agreement, the modernization of Mexico treaties. All these treaties also help students to move abroad because we have these connections. And it's very important to know that this is what is important and what shapes our future and our development as Europeans and as citizens of the world. And we don't have to lose that. We don't have to turn everything into hard power and all these countermeasures that we are seeing right now. And I think they only help us it does nothing good for us and not for the world, but we don't have, Erasmus is also one other ways to help this trend.
Albert, your opinion, could the European Union be different without?
Yes, it would be different, that for sure, because most of the policies that have been at the start of the European Economic Community and after the European Union, but Erasmus have been, let's say, interest-oriented, money-oriented. So it was how to fund, how to provide support to agricultures, how to provide support to regional inequalities, how to get money out of tariffs to pay for this. All of them were really putting money in order to cope with problems and to solve collective issues, but none was provided as Erasmus to provide as much more freedom to everybody to create new experience, to be developing themselves thanks to this experience, but with no guidance, simply be as much as you can yourselves. And this is extraordinary. So that is freedom of the highest quality.
Thank you. And Luis, the hardest point for you, because many things have already been said, but do you think that the European Union could be different without this?
Yes.
Program.
I think so. Well, totally agree with Judith, with Albert. Just to say something additional, I would say that thanks to Erasmus, Europe has something to be proud, very proud about, and that's important in terms of the identity of the institution itself. I mean, the European Union is not a person, but it needs some kind of reinforcement. And I think it's important to have Erasmus as a real success on the history of Europe. As you know, the history of Europe in the 20th century was extremely difficult. European Union appears as an answer to those kind of difficult moments that we had, in the past decades or in the past century. And Erasmus, I think, is the extraordinary success of the last 3 decades. So yes, something to be proud. If I may, I would ask the audience as a quiz. I would ask if you can. The question is, which is the first country receiving mobilities all over Europe? I will provide you 3 options, okay? Which one is the first country receiving mobilities? Receiving people, okay. So the 3 options, Italy, Germany, and Spain. Who is Italy? Can you raise your hand? And what about Germany? And what about Spain? Okay, you're right. Okay. You already knew. And what about sending? Which one is the country, the first country, sending people abroad? 3 options: Germany, France, or Spain. Can you raise your hand if you believe it's Germany? And what about France? And what about Spain? Okay, so not as good as before. In this case, the first country sending people abroad is France. Second one is Germany. And Spain is the third one. So basically, people want by heart to spend a few months in Spain. We are the first receiving, the first sending.
Thank you. It was a totally unexpected quiz. Luis didn't tell me anything, didn't announce it before we started. Guys, is there any question you'd like to raise, to ask to any of our panelists this afternoon? Otherwise, 2 things. First of all, keep these questions in mind, because maybe they appear in the final exam. Secondly, once again, Judith, Luis, and Albert,
thank you.
thank you very much for being with us this afternoon, and thank you very much for
Thank
sharing
you. Thank you so much.